before in a previous episode in length about a very good game for the PlayStation 4 that came out last year, and it was Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony, the third and what I would assume final game in the main Danganronpa video game series. And I talked before how there was another game besides Danganronpa 1 and 2 in the series that not too many people know about, but is like my personal guilty pleasure favorite. And I'll be talking about that today. So the game I'm talking about today is, of course, Ultra Despair Girls Danganronpa Another Episode. I don't know why I like this game so much, but there's just so much substance to it. Not only does it add to the Danganronpa series, acting as a sort of bridge between the first game and the second game, kind of explaining some of the events and showing some other characters that we'll see later on in the series, but it just has a fun gameplay to it. So the other games in the Danganronpa series are a first-person visual novel explory detective game, kinda, where most of the game, except for the class trials, you spent with a first-person perspective, going around the environments and looking for clues, finding monocoins, and interacting with other characters. Whereas in Ultra Despair Girls, it's a third-person over-the-shoulder shooter. And I was like, huh, that's kind of weird for Danganronpa. And the thing was, I ended up loving it. Now, the main character of this game is a character we have not seen before. It starts off with Komaru locked in a room, as despair takes over the world and everyone gets attacked and whatever. And she's locked in a room for a period of time. And eventually, she gets attacked by this giant Monokuma with blades for its claws, and she runs out and escapes. But she's greeted by one of the characters from Danganronpa 1, Byakuya. And Byakuya, he blasts the Monokumas and he throws her this gun megaphone thing that shoots electric waves that makes them explode and stuff. And that was really, really cool. Now, whereas the first Danganronpa game took place at Hope's Peak Academy, this game takes place within a city, Toa City. And it's a city that's been overrun by robotic Monokumas. And I do need to say that the visual aspect of this game is by far the most grotesque, except maybe for Danganronpa V3. There's certain scenes that's just piles of corpses and bodies and stuff. And that sounds pretty gross in itself. But this is where they come from. So the antagonists of the game are the Prodigies of Junko and Ashima. It's 5 elementary school kids who have been so tortured and tormented by the acts of vicious adults that they've decided that all adults are evil and they are going to wipe them off the face of the planet and murder all of them with these Monokuma bears. And holy crap, there is some wild imagery. There's one where the one kid, his name is Jotaro, not to be confused with Jotaro from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where he has these giant mechanical hands, and the adults are strung up like puppets, and they're dead, right? So he's making these corpses dance around, and it is a truly terrifying scene. What scared me the most was how I kind of agreed with the kids to a certain extent. All of the children, and this is shown in backstory, have been viciously tormented by adults. The one little boy, he was, told he had to be the smartest. So his parents literally injected drugs into his body to make him stay up constantly, so he could read and study and stuff. And then the one little girl, Toko, she was and then this is said in game, she was sexually molested by adults, and it was just oh my god. From the children's perspective, of course the world is going to seem dark and evil because they've had some truly horrifying things happen to them, especially by Danganronpa standards. This game is, except maybe for 3, is definitely darker than both 1 and 2. So the basic story is you are playing as Komaru, and you join up with my personal favorite character from 1, Toko. I love Toko Fukawa. She is my favorite character. She's crazy, she's got the whole split personality, she curses a lot, she's foul, she's funny. Great character. Very happy to see her back in. And you switch control between the two. Komaru using the gun, and Toko, what she does is she electrifies her brain so she becomes her alter ego, a Genocide Jack, who is this like serial killer. But what you do is like you go around slashing up Monokumas, and it's pretty fun. And to anyone who says that Toko is not the best girl in Danganronpa, I have this to say. Name one other girl that you know who can do a spirit bomb. You can't do it. You can't do it. I don't know any. You don't know any. That's crazy. Like, she straight up does this, like, purple spirit bomb with, like, blades coming at it and throws it down to destroy all these Monokumas. Like, bruh. She's take it, she's won. It's pretty funny. So the goal with Toko and Komaru is to escape the city. Easier said than done. And of course, you have to fight each of the 5 apprentices of Junko and Oshima. And the boss fights are interesting in design, but due to the nature of the game, they're not really the selling point. And each of the 5 bosses are essentially this like mech battle where it's like you play as Komaru and Toko, and then the characters are piloting these like giant mechs, and you have to like find the weak spots and stuff. Well, that might not be the most interesting gameplay. It certainly is a nice way to break up the monotony that can be destroying Monokumas. Another thing that I think Ultra Despair Girls does especially well is it fleshes out the characters from 1 and 2. See, in Ultra Despair Girls, you actually meet a bunch of characters who are relatives of characters from Danganronpa 1. And I thought that was really cool. Like, the first one you meet is always little brother, who's also a swimmer just like her. But because it is the Danganronpa series, all these encounters don't always end very well. And some are pretty tragic. The one with Chihiro's father was particularly upsetting, just because of how it ended for him. And I like that about the game. I like that it takes a concept that I already like, you know, the world and story of Danganronpa, and expands on it. I'm also happy, too, that it does break away from the whole, like, visual novel aspect. Now, yes, there is a lot of reading, a lot of voice acting, and there are a lot of cutscenes, but that's the nature of the series. And I don't necessarily think that cutscenes and reading are necessarily a bad thing. And with what Ultra Despair Girls was trying to do by fleshing out the story, I'm happy that it did so the way that it did, making it a real gem into the series. Another thing that Ultra Despair Girls adds to the story is it adds 2 more Monokumas, as if 1 wasn't enough, right? The first one that we see is Shirokuma. Now, Shirokuma is like a really sweet-sounding, gentle character, and then we meet his counterpart, Korokuma. And Korokuma is insane. Like, all he does is just, like, talk really quick and, like, spew profanities. Like, it's such a great duality of seeing, like, you know, the white bear and the black bear. You know, the bear of, like, kindness and the bear of death. But Korokuma doesn't really, like, hurt anybody. He just, like, sits there and talks. And I was just always interested to see what he would have to say. All in all, if you're expecting a typical Danganronpa experience from this game, you're not going to get it. But if you're looking to learn more about the world, learn more about the lore, and get some more in-depth representations of your favorite girl, Toko Fukawa, then Ultra Despair Girls is definitely the game for you. This has been another episode of Kirk Talk. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.